Gentlemen, thank you for coming. And we'll start in few minutes. We are waiting for another minister of Tajikistan who is in the next building finishing up his session. So because it finishes 1:30, so basically when they walk in and we'll start the program. Thank you for the patience.
Hello, everyone. While we're waiting for one final participant, if you could just look this way, take 1 second away from your phones. I would like to take a room photo, please. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right, we're ready to start. Hello, everyone. This is a fabulous full house. This is the home of sustainable agriculture of the Americas, but that doesn't mean we only focus on the Americas. We are really excited about this panel today, sharing knowledge with South-South dialogue. And we have implementing climate action in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And I think this is going to be a very rich and interesting conversation. We have a lot of people ready to go and share, and I'm going to turn it over now to Suresh. My name is Margaret Ziegler with ICA. Welcome to our pavilion, and afterwards, please stay. And this evening, we are having a reception here at 5 o'clock. So feel free to come back, have some food and drinks. We will be here and in this area out here, and we welcome you to come and enjoy yourselves. Suresh.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. This is a ministerial event. It's a broad event in which the CACCI program of the USAID, which is a flagship program for comprehensive action for climate change initiative, started 2 years ago. And in its original version, now it is transitioning to a new version with APT Associates taking the leadership, in which several partners are playing the role. IFPRI is one of them, ICA is another one, RENAPRI is another partner from Africa, and we have Academia 2063 as another partner from Africa. Today we have an exciting program. A range of ministers are participating, but then we have selected 3 to be on the panel to give the perspective about how the NDC implementation is going on, implementing climate action in their countries is going on broadly, and also with specific reference to sectors that they are working on, and how we can help in that process. What are the constraints? What are the challenges? what are the opportunities for investments, and how we can, as development partners and the academic institutions, research institutions, can work with you to help speed up the process of climate change. And that's a broad discussion. We want to learn from you, and it is also cross-learning among the continents. We are bringing Africa, Latin America, and Asia together, but with the representative countries coming together. With that broad introduction, I would want to introduce Dr. Bama Atreya, who is here. She will give closing remarks, but she is on the USAID Deputy Assistant Administrator from USAID. She will come back for the closing remarks. And we have Dr. Gustavo Goretti, from the Vice Minister from the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture, in the middle, sitting there. And we have Mr. Baro Rojan, Minister for Environment, Water Sanitation from Burkina Faso, here, right here. And we have Mr. Cesar Saboto, Minister for Agriculture and Fisheries from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So with that panelist, I would like to ask each panelist to give about 7 to 8 minutes of your perspective on what are the issues that you are facing in terms of implementing your NDC plans and the National Adaptation Plans, for example. And then we'll come back and have selected questions related to the policy, environment, institutional architecture, regulatory system, and what is happening with the carbon markets. So many issues to talk about, and the capacity issues, investment issues, as well as how we can move forward in terms of reporting on the goals that we set for ourselves. So these are the broad issues we'll be discussing, and again, it is cross-continent, so also talk a little bit about your continental perspective, where Latin America and the Caribbean perspective, Latin American and African perspective. So let's start with Burkina Faso, if I may. Mr. Rojan, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good day, everybody. It's a pleasure for me, on behalf of my country, to take part at this COP and for this event. I'm glad to talk about Burkina Faso progress in NDC implementation as an example of work done in West Africa and Africa in general. Because we know that due to the Climate Change Convention, each country must elaborate his NDC. So we have elaborated our NDC, and this side even is useful as it brings the perspective from Asia, Latin America, and Africa. So I'm glad to be part, and it learned also about other continents. These kind of events are even more important now, and we are facing high level of climate uncertainty by similar challenge across the smallholder farmer community. Because we are here for COP, but we don't have the same experience. So that is a place to share experience and to learn from each participant. This event also focuses on learning between countries from the global south on effort to achieve climate change commitment. We are in Burkina Faso working with development partners and other NGOs to achieve the NDC goal and develop comprehensive plans for addressing climate change. For example, we have a lot of projects on reforestation, projects on solar energy, agriculture, water, and education. For agriculture, our government we have launched what we call in French, offensive agro-silvopastoral. That means we want to produce a lot to eat enough and to be strong to have some innovation in our country. Because if you don't have to eat, we cannot think. If you don't have to eat, we cannot learn. So our main vision is to produce for it. After this, we can progress, we can discuss, and we can innovate for other domains. So I'm glad to see various stakeholders, including government officials and donors, invited to share their experience in translating climate change policy and commitment into implementation at the regional, national, and local level. For regional level, for example, we have decided with some countries like Mali and Niger to, to see what is good to do in climate security. Because in our region, we face about crisis due to terrorism. So this grow our vulnerability. So we need a lot of support in this topic to improve our livelihoods in Sahel in general. In our ministry, we like to have technical assistance because that is very important. When we come here, we talk about just transition. Somebody talked yesterday, just transition is not only to switch off or switch on the lights. We need to progress step by step. For this progress, we need technical assistance. Without technical assistance, it's not possible to progress. We also need, we have request a lot, we have our NDC. So we need all help to look at inside our NDC. We have also national planification, what we call National Action Plan for Stabilization and Development. So if you want to help Burkina, first we take our NDC, and secondly, our action plan. We have focused on some idea, some project, what can change population situation each day. We need identify our priorities for implementation of NDC and to map the actor and player who are doing good work in various sectors. That is very important. We have a lot of actors, stakeholders doing agriculture, education, climate change, resilience, but we need to map to be sure what you are doing is aligned in our priority and it varies because we can have a lot of stakeholders in the same area. That is not good. We have more than 10 regions, so we need to diversify the intervention in the country. USAID mission in our countries has been a great help. We need global knowledge, capacity building, and funding. Very important, funding, because we have our priority. So please come and help us to implement what we have already decided as priorities. That is very important. Other donors as such African Development Bank, UNDP, FAO, and others are also been helping with specific sector. We look forward to receive other donor, and thank you for organizing this side event. I am with my colleague in charge of budgets, in charge of agriculture, so we are here to exchange our contacts and maybe to up something small starting on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Rojan. Thank you for your initial remarks. We'll come back to you on the details. And let's go to Mr. Gustavo from Brazil.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Gustavo. I'm from Brazil, and I'm really glad to be here at the IICA on this COP28. IICA is a really very important player, a stakeholder for agriculture in America Latin. So we are very glad to be here. And Brazil, as you know, is a big, huge country, and we have established our NDCs. And for doing that, we did multi-sectoral plans, and each sector made his own plan. So the first that was built was the agriculture plan. We call it the ABC plan, and it's called the low carb agriculture. And for doing that, we have three bases: the governance, the three pillars that we have. We have the innovation, that we have the technologies for agriculture to doing the mitigation, the adaptation, the credit, and we have the governance. That's really, really important. And thank you. This plan, only for agriculture, we had in the last 10 years, we have mitigated around 280 million tons for carbon equivalents, and we have the target for the next 10 years until to 2030 to mitigate one gigatons. So for doing that, the most important things for us is just our colleague says technical assistance. I think for every bar, every country, this plays a huge play. It's a it's a rude thing because the farmers are not worried about the NDCs. They are worried about planting and cropping and have the food for the people and commercialize. And for doing that, we, as the government, we have to put technical suppliers and technical agents to go there and teach them how to do it a better way. So we have some technology that we can easily share with our colleagues from Africa. I think we are a country that have one of the best tropical agricultures. So we are really open to share our technologies, and the technologies like no tillage crop. It's really important for us. We have a really science-based technologies. All the technologies that are in the ABC plan, they have are really been studying and have numbers that we can, how much that can mitigate or been doing in the adaptation plan. And we have like a really important thing that's growing really fast in Brazil is the bioinputs. In 3 years, we have changed for chemical pesticide in 15%. We are doing for bioinputs. It's a real huge acceleration on bioinputs. We can share that too. Our we have a lot of course, online course that can be translated for English that can in few days can be teaching the people from other countries how to do it. One of our pillars that is really important for us on the ABC plan is the credit. The government has some loans that can the agricultures who can adopting those technologies that are important for the adaptation and mitigation plan. They have low income rates. This is really important for us, so the farmers can change to a traditional farm to a not low carbon farm. That's really important for us. And all other thing, it's that the governance of the plan, how it's going the ground, who is adopting, who is not. We have to measure how things going on the ground. So to do that, like Brazil is a really large country, we did the subnational commitments that has the people from government and private sectors, from the farmers representatives that make these plans for each state and that can put the plan on the ground. Because we are in the capital, we not know what exactly going on the ground. So we just 2 hours ago we just launched the one state ABC plan for the 2330 plan that the governor was here. So it's really important for us that we have on the ground and measure it, how it's going, how it's not going. And for I think it's really important for the NDC that you have these things knowing about the how it's going in each state of Brazil. So for us, ABC plan, it's our 13 years plan. It's the first one in Brazil that was building, and we are really excited about the results. And we are really came here with a big team so we can change experience and launch and spread it for the tropical agriculture countries, so we can be all together in this adaptation and mitigation for the countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gustavo, for the initial remarks. And let's move to the Minister for Agriculture from St. Vincent and Grenadines, and Cesar Sabato, please.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I wish to congratulate the organizers of this event for crafting the topic in the way that they have crafted it so that we can maximize the output from this conversation. I want to begin not from the conversation of the impact of climate change, but to posit that our quest to address issues of climate change comes against a backdrop of other issues that we are grappling with as developing countries, which would establish the platform and determine the successes or failures that we are going to experience as we pursue or fight to grapple with the vagaries of climate change. It is passing strange that in the climate change conversation, that some persons want to divorce it from the conversation of reparatory justice. Some persons want to divorce this conversation from the fact that developing countries are, for the most part, the producers of raw material. This raw material is processed by first world countries, and the margins of profits are so small in developing countries that when we speak about financing climate action from within, it is going to be extremely difficult. We're also doing this in a world where we are just recovering from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the major disruptions in the supply chains in our countries. In my country, for example, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we saw inactivity in approximately 60% of our producers because we are very tourism oriented. And those farmers who produced for the tourism sector were not able to pursue their trade to produce for the tourists. And they are still grappling with that recovery. We are also fighting the vagaries of climate change against a backdrop where there are significant increases in the price for feed and for fertilizer. So I just want to, by way of introduction, to give a very holistic appreciation that we're fighting for climate justice, we are fighting for blue justice, and we are also fighting for reparatory justice. And that's the world that most developing countries, that we are grappling with all of these issues at the same time. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are in the path of hurricanes. And in 2010, we had the destruction of 98% of our banana cultivation. And just before I go into some of the responses, I want to note that there is a very quiet side of the impact of climate change and an area that I think that climate action should address, and it's the social side. We have witnessed in many developing countries, because of the vagaries of climate change, not only a reduction in production, but migration. You're seeing where families are disintegrating because fathers have to leave their countries to go to other lands to seek jobs. And that is only one. It is also having a serious impact on social stratification and the division of labor and the relationship between the owners of the factors of production and those who sell their labor to the owners of the factors of production. In my country, we are going to have a national budget in January of 2024. And already we have hired a consultant to implement the Climate Smart Agriculture Compliance Plan, because we have flirted, for the most part, with many of the adaptation strategies and the methodologies for how we're going to react to climate change. But in terms of getting past the statement at the political level and to restructure the restructuring of our extension services, ensuring that our germplasms are developed to the extent that when we have droughts, 3 years ago we had the harshest drought that we have ever experienced in 50 years. And that came at the back of a hurricane. So it is not as easy as it sounds, and it has to be carefully structured, planned, articulated, and financed. It's very important that we organize the financing, and it cannot be something that we have as a sideshow where we leave it up to NGOs and community-based organizations, or we have it as just a unit in a ministry. The entire nomenclature of our methodology for food production has to change and must become climate change compliant. I would rest here because I think that it is where I wanted to introduce the issues.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, give him a big hand. Yeah. So this is the idea behind the whole session, because we want to learn from different perspectives. On the broadly from the Brazil, talking about we have technology, we can share it with other countries, and you are asking for germplasm for fighting drought. I mean, that's the meeting of supply and demand right there. And Minister from Burkina Faso, he also talked about technical assistance. And so how can countries that have managed their problems in terms of climate change and how they are adapting to and how they are mitigating, and those technologies can be shared. So that's one emerging issue already, that we can South-South collaboration in terms of sharing knowledge, sharing capacity, sharing investments and finance. That's also talked about. And another issue that came up is this governance. Broadly, how do we take the plans that we have and implement it in a way that also builds a capacity, the local capacity for designing, implementing, and monitoring and evaluating the programs that we are implementing. That's another issue that came up. And with this broad set of issues coming up, let me also kind of recognize the ministers from Burkina Faso, Minister for Agriculture and Livestock, who is sitting here. Please feel free to come in and add your views from your sector, and the budgeting and finance. Please come and share as you feel. Don't be forced, but whenever you want to come in and join us. I just want to recognize you as well, who are here. So with that, let me start with a broad question of the policy environment. One of the objectives of CACCI program, that is the USAID funded program, the Comprehensive Action for Climate Change Initiative, is to strengthen the policy system. And climate change, as you know, the global goals are set and the national goals are set. But again, how do we drive the policy in a sense that it is multi-sectoral? Agriculture is there, industry is there, tourism is there for the countries. It's also affected by climate change, and also the infrastructure and the energy. And how does this all sectors coming together in your country perspective to kind of address the climate change issue under the rubric of, for example, NDC? So let me start with the Brazil broadly, and then we'll come back to Burkina Faso.
Yeah. In Brazil, we have one national plan that get all the plants together, but and now we are rebuilding the plan that already has 10 years, about 10 years that was constructed the national plan, and we get together. We have one a minister commitment that has all the sectors representatives, and now we are rebuilding and we are making this technical groups that are discussing not with only with agriculture but all the sectors together to discuss the agricultural plan, because we know that we have probably fertilizers and commercial and energy for irrigation. Energy is a huge thing for irrigation, and these sectors has to talk so they can get to the goal of the plan has succeed. So it's really a hard thing to do because everybody's looking for his sector, but we have to put the people in the room and talking about agriculture, and the people of agriculture has to know that energy has his own way to do business, and how much that costs to take the electricity to the fields. And yeah, I think is a really biggish thing to do, and it's really hard to do when you put people to different sectors to talk about climate change. I think it's not really, it's not, we don't have one way to do it. It's really try and fail.
Yeah, that's exactly most of the countries are. They are trying to bring the sectors together and try to figure out trial and error. And what's happening in Burkina Faso? How do you already brought two more ministers with you,
Yes.
finance and important minister and agriculture. But how are you working multi-sectorally in Burkina?
No, c'est bon. Okay, thank you. In my last speech, I have talked about one initiative that we have in our country, agri pastoral and halieutic offensive for the upcoming 2 years. So it's very important that on my side of Ministry of Environment, I will work for other ministry to have opportunity to change population life. That is important. But for the policy, we have a lot of policy in our country. One of the policies is the National Economic and Social Development Program. We focus on the rural sector. And we have also the National Food Security and Nutrition Policy, whose objective is to reach sustainable development in upcoming 2025. We have also the silvopastoral sectoral policy, whose objective is productive agricultural development. In the country, we have what we call sectoral consultation. We consultate with Ministry in charge of Agriculture, Budget, Infrastructure, Transport, Education to know in your field what can I do for you. So we are together. It for this to focus, to be sure that what we are doing here will be taken account in the country. We want to be part of IICA initiative for Burkina Faso. We have talked it, but we want to be sure that after this side event, my country is really part of IICA initiative. And I am Minister of Environment, but the implementation will be with the Ministry of Agriculture. But I will summarize and capitalize on behalf of climate change implementation and resilience. So with policy, we are together. And for this event, the Minister of Agriculture, budget also, we have also the representation of the Minister in charge of Transport, because we need to have clean transport to reduce gas emission. That is what I have to say.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. So that's already quite a bit of multi-sectoral actions going on, consultations and discussions. That's the way it is. And let's come to your country. Tourism is a major income earner, but how do you bring the climate change, and how do you work with that?
In the case of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, our population is 100,000 persons, and we are 150 square miles. We have 10,000 registered farmers, and the main income earner is tourism. On such a small landscape, it is quite natural that there will be significant interconnectivities between tourism, infrastructure, agriculture, and energy. And what we have noticed is that whenever we are impacted by climate-triggered natural disasters, that, for example, one of the first respondents would have to be the Minister of Infrastructure, because the roads are blocked. You don't have access to your farms. Then the central irrigation grid that we have for the farms, whenever you have the massive floodings, they are destroyed. So when we speak about the interconnectivity from the impact standpoint, then the policymaker has to now juxtapose which ministry takes the lead. And in our case as well, the Ministry of Environment takes the lead. But in taking the lead, sometimes very important subsectors are left behind. And it happens in every country. For example, you have some of the highest spending is done on infrastructural repairs, repairing the bridges, because the bridges are not only used by the farmers, they're used by the students, they're used by the general public. And sometimes what we also notice that it's not until a gestation period that you really have the farmers really benefiting from the assistance that is coming from the climate action platform. We were able in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to establish a contingency fund that is triggered whenever we have a natural disaster. And that definitely has created an important impact, because we now have the capacity to respond, and to respond quickly, because the fund is there. And it is triggered only by climate change disasters.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's already clear that it's a multi-sectoral problem, multi-sectoral action is needed, and how to bring the multi-sectoral actors and players together is continues to be a challenge, but we are making progress on that, particularly from the climate change perspective. Now let me turn to the issue of investments. And we always say we need resources to develop programs, bankable projects that can be implemented for mitigation and adaptation and so on. And what are the broad avenues for investments? Is it public sector taking the lead, or public-private partnerships, or blended finance? What is the arrangements that you are looking for, and how it is working in your country? Some perspective will be useful. Let's start with Burkina Faso again.
I am the first to start. Okay, no problem. For investment in our country. Okay. Now, for investment in our country, we have an organization, because we have learned about capacities of some actor to mobilize finance for us, but it's not enough. So we have decided to mobilize ourselves, the finance for our own projects. And for this, we are working now to have 2 agencies to be accredited for the green fund. So we have 2 kind of agency. We have a public environmental fund for intervention, we can be accredited, and we have also private sector, which is a bank. So we need to have a bank and a public agency to mobilize fund for us. That is the first step. But the second step is we mobilize finance each time when need. We have the Ministry of Budget for our big projects. We can mobilize fund with some partners and for investment. And with the public, we have developed what we call public project investment, PPP. So we can take a project of dam, a project of solar energy, and we implement. And after implementation, the government can give you your fund step by step during the according for a time. And we mobilize also finance according for the windows which are open in some fund. For example, with JEFT, we mobilize some fund with the JEFT project. Now we are in the JEFT 8 replacement. So we are working to have some projects with JEFT. We work also with African Development Bank. We work also with World Bank and another bank, West African Bank, BOAD. We work, but what we need, we don't need to have a lot of procedure. Sometimes to mobilize climate finance is so difficult. We start younger, we become old, any project on the ground. We need something quickly, fast and concrete. That is what we want in Burkina Faso. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very useful. Very useful. Let's go to St. Vincent and then come to Brazil just to change the pattern.
Capital is always a very important factor of production. You can have the land, you can have the labor. If you don't have the capital, we are not going very far. And in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are not at the stages yet where our national banks are recognizing a special envelope under the rubric of climate change. It's still general production. And you have persons who are able to go to the banks in the event that there is a natural disaster and refinance. And because most persons are landowners, they have title to the land, and that is used as security from time to time. What I want to admonish, though, and we have seen in St. Vincent and the Grenadines excellent examples over the last 25 years, we have been able to form cooperatives where persons, individual farmers will not be able to harness the capital in the bank, but collectively they are able. And we had the registration of several companies, organizations of farmers. We had, for example, Wind Farm, WINFA, and we have worked with international foundations, for example, like the Fair Trade Foundation, because it is all about building the bankability of the farmers. There are definitely some spending that will be outside of the scope of farmers. For example, if you have a bridge that has costed 30 million US dollars that was knocked out, then that's the public sector that deals with that. Microfinancing, there's always a role for microfinancing, but what I think is the bigger issue, and it comes back to what I said in the introduction, until farmers and farmer groups and cooperatives in agriculture can reposition themselves in the supply chain, they will not be able to satisfy the demands of the bank to self-capitalize. It's very important. If you're just the producer of the raw material, it's going to be very difficult. You do not have that level of leverage with lending institutions, particularly when you are a micro producer. And what we have been able to do in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is to establish what is known as the Farmer Support Company, which is a bank which lends concessionary loans to farmers, 2% interest. And it is really our form of having a subsidy. The question going forward, though, is whether or not the public sector will have to consider a period of subsidies in order to ensure that there is a rapid recovery of our food systems. That has to be a conversation that must be entertained at the table.
Very useful from the perspective of your country. Let's see how investments are mobilized in Brazil
In
for
Brazil,
climate action.
we got a lot of external funds that helps a little small programs and small project that we have for the different agents or different place. That's projects help us to spread the technology around the country, and it's look like that those projects where a lot of farmers get to know the technology in place, in the ground, in the farmers. We used to say that I probably in a lot of countries, but in Brazil, the farmers just believe in what he saw. If you tell him something, probably he's not gonna adopt that technology just because you're saying that the academy say that's good. It's because his neighbor did, or he went to some farm show that he saw that, and that in what he's believing, and that's the one way that we are discovered that is really good to spread that technology. We do small place that the farmers can go there and see. I forgot in English, but one thing that really worked for us for the adaptation and mitigation was that the technology that we built put the farmers to earning more. The technology is giving more, how can I say, increase the yield, increase the productivity, and sometimes get low costs for the farmers. So one of the things that we think the ABC plan is successful is because when the farmers adopt the technology, they get more money. So that's the way we can spread. So they're doing best for the environment, they're producing better, and they get more money. That's I think that's how the farmers get to put that on new way to farmer. It's not really new. It's some things that already he's doing, just some details here and there,
Yeah.
and that's one of the biggest things that we saw. The farmers, they are there for the profit. So if you put some technology
Yeah.
that they can, it's more costly for them. It does not make sense for them to adopt. So one of the big, we have some numbers that we have one big programs. Technology is pasture recover, and that's gonna put in 2020 to 2030. That's gonna put $20 billion in Brazil economy. Just that technology. We're gonna recover about 50,000 million 50 million hectares, and that's gonna only that technology gonna put in the economy of Brazil $2 million, and that will be out. So I think if we have 10 technologies, just one technology gonna do that. So
Oh, wow.
it will be a big issue for us. I think that's one way to spread the if you get the farmers to get more money, they're gonna adopt that.
So you are basically saying incentivizing the farmers to adapt, and then
Yeah.
facilitating that finance can go a long way.
And how the caller said,
Eh,
the money for the technology advice is low everywhere.
Yes.
So if you put this money to get a lot of farms to know the technology once
Yes.
together, will be cheaper for doing.
Thank you so much. With that, let me open it for the questions from the audience. Thank you for patiently listening, and now it's your turn to raise some issues and you share your experience too, if we are talking about similar issues in your country. just open for discussion. Any?
I have a question. So, how has the initiative been working so far to make the connections between the countries and regions? What have you been doing in terms maybe quarterly meetings, Zoom meetings, in-person meetings? How do you exchange knowledge and information?
Okay. So this comes back to how we all can work together under the program that we are talking about, the CACCI program. It's also introduction to you, the CACCI program. CACCI is a Comprehensive Action for Climate Change Initiative. It's again a flagship program of the USAID, where we are looking at the issues related to policy, institutions, regulations, in carbon markets, for example, and how we can bring the investments, and how do we strengthen the capacity, and how do we monitor and evaluate. This connection among the regions is happening because of the collaboration that we have. Now we have in the room audience, we have African colleagues from RENAPRI, and we have Academia 2063, and from ICA is another partner for us, and IFPRI is another partner with the leadership now of ABT Associates. We have already been meeting on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, to talk about what we are doing in CACCI and which countries that we are doing, and so on. Maybe I can indulge Anthony to give us a perspective from African perspective, how we have been working, just to answer that question. You've been on the forefront in Africa.
No, thank you very much, Suresh. In Africa, we started with 4 pilot countries. That was Ghana, Zambia, Rwanda, and Senegal. And the number of countries is increasing now under the CACCI 2.0. Essentially, we have 2 technical partners, ANAPRI, where I'm from, and then we also have partners from Academia 2063, who implemented CACCI in Rwanda and Senegal. For ANAPRI, it was Zambia and Ghana. So essentially in Zambia and Ghana, we work through our member centers, well, these are the think tanks who partner with government to try to catalyze action. So essentially, our focus has been to help with issues to do with data and data analytics, because you see, when you commit to something, you want it to be evidence-based. So our focus is, at the beginning, is to try to generate the evidence to be able to help with the decision-making, as well as to help private sector place their investments in the right areas in terms of climate action. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much. We'll take one more question, and then we'll have to close it. Yeah, okay. We'll take a couple of more questions.
I'm just going to ask a quick general question.
Please.
As a very practical matter, how do you view your relationship with the National Designated Authority for the GCF? Because I found that agriculture tends to be underrepresented amongst the NDAs, the National Designated Authority. So what has been your experience?
Can you take that? What has been your experience? And a particular sector like agriculture is underrepresented in the broader context of climate action.
Well, not only my experience as a minister, but the way that it is structured, the representation at COP answers the question. Ministers of agriculture and agriculture is not seen as mainstream. And it is really, our gathering here as ministers of agriculture is really a call to action. And this could be because of many different reasons. If there is a particular perspective in the mind of the Director General of Finance and Planning, that there is an under-resourcing in a particular area that is impacted by climate change, you may see a channeling of the funds there. And I think where we need to begin to reposition things is that as ministers of agriculture and fisheries, we need to ensure that we at all times represent our stakeholders at the table, because we are in a situation of scarce resources. And if we do not make the case at that level, we will not be able to get not only the voice, but we will not be able to get the action. And that's something that is very critical. I think that we need to note it, that going forward, agriculture and food systems, we know that by 2050, if we continue on this trajectory, we will have global food scarcity. And with all that is taking place in climate change, is of first importance, equal with all the other needs, and that must be represented.
Thank you. At this stage, let me bring on our colleague from USAID to give closing remarks. She has to go to another meeting after this, but then we'll stay here put. We will take more questions for the panelists. Now we'll take her.
Thank you so much, Suresh, and thank you very much to our esteemed ministers who are here today, Excellencies. You've taken time to be here despite the challenges and responsibilities that you all have described in dealing with your own economies. And you know, the fact that you're here, that we all are here in this room today, and that we all are taking the time to learn from each other, to see where we can make common cause, to see where there are common solutions that we want to encourage others to adopt as well at a multilateral level is really significant. So we're really grateful to be participating in this event, and grateful as well to have a very small role to play in facilitating further exchange, learning, and common solutions, a common agenda for change. You have heard a little bit about CACCI, the Comprehensive Action for Climate Change Initiative that we are supporting, and one of the reasons USAID feels so strongly about supporting this initiative is that, as you know, as we ourselves as a bilateral agency learn more about development, we learn it from our partners throughout the world, right? And we understand that many of the ideas and solutions are emerging in every country, and that we need to step back and listen to that narrative, those emerging ideas and those emerging solutions. It is not our role as a US donor to come in with the technical solutions. It's our role to simply come in with the support that's needed to foster and facilitate more exchanges, more ideas that we ourselves can learn from as well. And that's really what's at the heart of our interest in this convening today, in much of the other discussion that is happening here on all kinds of collaboration that is multi-stakeholder, that recognizes solutions emerging from the private sector and civil society, and that recognizes that even with the diversity of the economies and challenges that you have described, that there are commonalities as well. So thank you all very much for being here and being part of this dialogue, and thank you so much to IFPRI for inviting me to participate.
Few more questions that people raised a hand. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much, and congratulations for all your challenges and also all the policies that you have put in place. I am Alessandro from here's okay? Yeah. Okay, sorry. From the Ministry of Agriculture from Brazil. I am Director of Innovation, and I'll just give you an example that one thing that we are doing in Brazil for our mobile bill. 1% of all the mobile bills that we pay in Brazil, we put this money in a fund. So we already have $1 billion in this fund, and we're using this fund to spread connectivity for the rural area. So I think it's an interesting policy that we have in place in Brazil, as we have all this challenge in terms of how to have the technical assistance happen on the ground, and also this money goes to the small companies, and they start to make the infrastructure for internet, for access of connectivity for the farmers. So it's a very interesting policy that we are doing. Of course, it helps the policy that my colleague Gustavo was talking about, the technology that need to be adopted. And we also have a lot of, we need to have training, e-learning training. So we have in Brapa, we have already more than 200 trainings that are in place. In Brazil, we have 5 million farmers. We have already 1 million farmers trained by this e-learning training. So the point is, the question for me, for you guys is, Minister, sorry, is how, if it's, it could be a, how is the connectivity in the fields in your countries, and if it makes sense to make some investments or make some policies in terms of use this kind of infrastructure to help to have technology transfers in your countries.
Thank you. Anybody to take? Yeah.
Well, quite naturally, it's of first importance that we marry whatever we do with the connectivity.
Sure.
And we are speaking not only about the current population of farmers, but in my country, for example, we have an aging group of farmers. And how do we include the youth? And if we don't marry the technology with agriculture, we will be excluding our young people. There is a need for a multifaceted and a multi-talented, exceptional cadre of young emerging farmers globally who are connected, who understand the technology, and who can use the technology because it was introduced to them at the level when they were in the primary schools, the secondary schools, before their age 10. Because it's very difficult, I must add, to convince a farmer who is 60 years old to change their methodology and to include technology because they are already bent. There are some farmers who tell you that they're not believers in climate change.
Thank you. I saw you have a Getao, I have an hand. You want to say something? Oh, yeah. And there is a hand at the back. We're coming to you next. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll take both the questions and then answer and finish.
No, mine is just sharing experience from Senegal and Rwanda.
Okay.
So we have been implementing CACCI for the last 2 years in Senegal and Rwanda. So what we do is we have a very strong collaboration with the local agencies, with the Ministry of Environment in both countries, and also the specific agencies who are implementing the climate change. For example, for Rwanda, we closely work with the Rwanda Environment Management Agency, we call it REMA, and then we sit together and identify areas where they need technical support. We are providing technical support in 3 areas. One is capacity building in different areas, and second one is in mobilizing investment for climate change. That's where I think many countries are struggling, and they have to develop some fundable and bankable projects to be financed by international donors and all these things. So we are trying to support them on developing projects and programs. Actually, in Rwanda, they are moving from project to programs, flagship programs, rather, because that's where we can have really significant impact, scalable impacts. That is the second area. And the third one is on tracking performance and measuring performance, how they track greenhouse gas emissions, how they track some climate risks, and how they can track even climate adaptation actions. That's where we lack in terms of assessing some vulnerabilities, assessing resilience, and all these things. This can help them to target their investments, especially as well as over time. So these are some of the technical support that we provide with CACCI, and I think Antonio has already said about how we move from evidence-based to actions. So that's where we are supporting. So
thank you, Getao. Thank you for introducing yourself, so we can get in touch with him after that. And last question, and go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the floor. I am Mumuni Diala, the president of Pan-African Youth Union. I'm based in Burkina Faso. That I want to appreciate Mr. Minister of Environment of Burkina Faso, who back very well young people action initiative in Burkina Faso. Now I want to know what exactly do you want to do to support young people action initiative against the climate change in the Sahel globally and particularly in Burkina Faso? Thank you.
Yeah, quick question and quick answer for youth. How are we going to engage youth? Inclusive climate action. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, my colleague, my compatriots. For Burkina Faso, we are well organized. Next week, we have a workshop with civil society and youth organization. So we have a mechanism for consultation. So what we want for youth is to be engaged, to be engaged, to well understand what is climate change and to identify what they can do. Because we have some facilities to accompany the youth. So you are welcome with your idea, because my colleague said that with young people, you have some innovation. So you are welcome to help us to transform our agriculture. With farmers, we can well understand what is technology to improve their work day by day.
Thank you. That's inclusivity. Yeah, please be in touch. And with that, I would like to close this session thanking all the partners that ICA, Academia 2063, RENAPRI, of course, the ministers who have come from distinguished ministers coming from different countries. And once again, we are all in it together. And it's not just one ministry or one sector or one actor. We have to work together, and the countries have to work together as well. So with that, let me thank everyone for coming, and it's a houseful session, and thanks for the patience and participation. Last picture, the lady is taking a picture. Yeah.